Welcome. In this section, we're going to explore hooks in WordPress. This is a part of WordPress development that really pushes beyond just being a basic theme developer and opens up a whole new world of possibilities. Hooks are a way for us to add our own code to customize WordPress's default behavior. There are two types of hooks in WordPress. We have action hooks, which let us run our own code when a certain event takes place within WordPress. And we collectively call this group of WordPress events the WordPress lifecycle or runtime. And we'll look at this in more depth, but what is important to remember is that action hooks are triggered when an event takes place, and then we get to execute our own code. Filter hooks, on the other hand, let us get data from WordPress, modify it, and then return it back customized. So rather than being triggered when a certain event takes place, we're able to pull data out of WordPress, customize it to our own liking, and then return it back to be used in the same places WordPress would normally execute it or display it. When we first start getting into hooks in WordPress, it can be a little confusing to tell the difference between action hooks and filter hooks. But there are a few specific things that differentiate these two different types of hooks, and we're going to look at them now so that we could start to build a solid foundation of these two different types of hooks. Action hooks in WordPress are triggered when a certain event takes place during the WordPress lifecycle. We'll look in detail at what this lifecycle involves, but basically WordPress is built on an event-driven architecture, which means that all the while that WordPress is building out the front end or back end, it is triggering little events along the way that we could hook our own code into. Now, the other thing to mention there is that we get to execute our own code. And while this may not seem like a differentiating feature, it is important when we compare it to filter hooks. So with filter hooks, we're first going to get WordPress data. And this could be anything from a post title to the name of our site to different form elements. And pretty much everything that WordPress displays has some filter attached to it. So when we hook into a filter, we get that data as a parameter in our own function, and then we can modify it as we like, doing whatever it is that we need to do to make it unique and fit the needs that we're going after. The important thing to remember here is that you always need to return that modified data back at the end of your filter hook by calling return so that WordPress can have this modified data to work with. And if we compare this to action hooks, we could see this key difference. Action hooks are going to execute and run our own code, but not necessarily return anything back that WordPress needs to display. We may trigger certain events to happen, and we may do something like save a post, but we're not necessarily pulling it out and modifying it in the same way that filter hooks work. With filter hooks, we do have to return something back, and we're not just executing our own code. Now, the difference between these will make more sense as we go along, but it's important to start here with these key differences so that we could understand how they are similar and different from the get-go. Both of them are going to customize WordPress, but they both do it in slightly different ways. Now that we've taken a high-level look at what actions and filter hooks are, let's start exploring how they work in more depth and which ones are available.